before Kwame responds, I think part of the reason why we're here is because we have a crisis in our country. And we call you as experts to look at possible solutions, short-term, medium, and long-term. So we would, even as you guide us, would like to look at what can be done immediately to give Kenyans some relief. And we did it, I mean, when we were in the middle of the COVID crisis. It wasn't just a health crisis, it was a financial crisis. So the taxes that we were able to review at the time, I've referred to them. But also there were things that we did, and some of them Kwame has referred to, particularly in terms of what can be done in the education sector. What we did, we had about 10 billion that went to, Kazi Mitani, the youth. We also were able to allocate, I think it was about 6.5 billion that also went to the education sector. Construction of classrooms, desks, putting money in the pockets of young people across the country. And I think that pushed a lot of people. So we are not just looking at the long term. The short term we're talking about, maybe our colleagues in Kenya Kwanza are very passionate about the affordable housing. We were equally passionate actually in the last administration because Uhuru Kenyatta's Big Four agenda, housing was a key pillar, and everybody was very passionate. But the reality of the circumstances was that we're in a crisis. That can be postponed, it can be done later. And we were able to do that. So the issue of this housing levy being turned into a tax, I think is the most oppressive task. Most Kenyans are saying, we already have mortgages, we can hardly take home a third of our salaries. Imposing this tax on us, and you are forced to pay, it's very oppressive. If there are other ways, my late brother Mike used to say, a good idea can give way to a better idea. If Kwame, and this is very refreshing, the brainstorming we're having, to have new ideas, that we don't have to be fixated on this housing thing, because the main agenda for Kenya Kwanza was really, they are saying it's not about housing, it's about creating jobs. I think that this has been the argument. There can be another way of creating jobs. And these are some of the suggestions you are giving us. And I think they're going to benefit our analysis in terms of the way forward. I would also just ask the budget team from Parliament. We heard from the control of budget the issue of the inflated salaries. Is this what we've been hearing about, budgeted corruption, where the inflations? We heard from Kwame talking about, the fuel, more than can be consumed. The budgeting people, I think you can guide us. This is what we are hearing about budgeted corruption, and what can be done to make a saving from this so that we are able to push on Kenyans. Lastly, the issue of FDI is very worrying that we are lagging behind our sister countries like Tanzania and others. We know that our Kenya Kwanza colleagues have said the blitz, the global trips, and I'm told it's a record. In 1 year, 38 trips. I think Kibaki in 10 years did 32 trips. Can you, probably in the last 1 year, give us maybe an indication in terms of contribution to the FDI, foreign direct investment, improvement in this period of this administration? Are you in a position to give us that figure? And lastly, in terms of the global examples we were given by Muliro, which one would you recommend for Kenya? Because we are looking at we are in a crisis. We need to see how to get out. Thank you.
Okay, Omar, second one. Maybe Omar, before you go, Eugene, you may benefit from the knowledge that His Excellency at one point was Minister for Foreign Affairs and President Kibaki, I think.
Yeah. If you need my expert opinion on that, I will.
So that's like that because you're comparing Kibaki's trips and we also know the conditions.
But also, if you look at the onset years of Uhuru Kenyatta, he did 35 trips in 1 year. Because, in fact, even the Economist wrote an article, Kenya's mocking their visiting president because he was never in the country. I think people try to build relations and see whether they can have a significant inflow. I can tell you some of the bilaterals that have been signed and other countries already on the ground, like Malaysia, to invest in the special economic zone. They're already on the ground to invest in CPO. Kenya probably will be the biggest distributor of CPO in the next couple of years because they're doing the tankage and they've done the feasibility. They think we have the leverage of the East African community, 300 million population, and by definition, African free trade. Anyway, these are things that are real. But I wanted to go back to this issue because I can say you talked about some bad decisions, SGR and the like. Maybe this is the time when I wanted to also ask the control of budget to say there are severe gaps. When we as Kenya Kwanza were campaigning, we had promised a state capture commission. One, to recover lost wealth and to interrogate some of those state capture issues, including the SGR, the expressway, the telecom. I think it's maybe, is it high time we moved in that direction? Because I think Eugene has been making a lot of reference to his past government. And I think it's important to have a national audit of this past government in the last 10 years to see what are some of these interventions we've had here, including from you, control of budget, are outright criminal. So is there a possibility now to trace those funds so that they can probably help us in this cost of living agenda, which Kwame just told us it's only 8 billion a year, and I know a month, which part was looted, what was looted probably is more than that. It could actually do that 1 year program in terms of subsidy. So is there still window for us to recover this wealth, to bring perpetrators to book, and in addition to that, to look at the negligence of some of these deliberate decisions of the SGR, which Kimani says heads or leads to the bush. The second question, which is my final, but I think no, it has been answered. So I was just referring to my notes. So I think I wanted to get your take on the State Capture Commission and us bringing true accountability to the perpetrators of these economic crimes in the past 10 years.
Mine will go to Nyaga on the second round on the FDIs, the foreign direct investments. And as you rightly put it, there are some of our peers in the region who in the last year or so, or last 2 years, have attracted more foreign direct investments than we have in Kenya. And as you gave the case of our sister country, one of our neighbors, that are doing their railway now, would you draw a similar parallel with us at the time we were doing our SGR? And what was the level of our foreign direct investments at the time we were doing our SGR? Because economic sentiments play a big role in attraction of foreign direct investments. And therefore, when the world is optimistic that your economy is on the right trajectory, people tend to invest in your country. Therefore, I would want to hear a parallel between when we are doing our SGR and where we are, the termination of our SGR and that of the sister country or a neighboring country, in terms of where did we terminate our SGR? Are we deriving value out of that SGR when it ended up, those in the media have called it the railway to nowhere? That of the sister country, where is it terminating? Are they deriving more value out of it? Two, is our behavior, especially those of us in the political class. The country you referred to and I'm avoiding to mention countries because we have members of the press here, they get into elections, they go through elections and life continues. Is there a bearing as to the way we behave in this country where in the run-up, a year to the elections, a year after elections, we are not at ease with ourselves? Does that culture of political violence, and that is precisely why we set up this national dialogue, to make sure that we also end the culture of political violence, does it in any way discourage foreign direct investments from coming into the country?
Well done, Kimani. I think that, so we do not overburden these experts, we could, for example, ask that you update your presentations and be able to recommend to us, because we're on a serious mission and we don't want to fish through you. We're not on a fishing expedition, but we want to be able to know. Kenyans, I started by saying, when I made my earlier remarks, that they are hurting. They demonstrated because of the cost of living. And that's why we felt we didn't want to deal with these other issues and then fail to deal with this all-important matter, according to some of us. Okay? So you could recommend, this is without necessarily borrowing Kimani's quick fix, because there can't be any quick fixes. Is there something we can do with regard to the taxation regime? Because it's always very good when you tax people who are willing or who are able to feel they're part of what you're trying to do to improve their lot. And what can we do in the midterm? And of course, budget, in terms of budgetary procedures, you talk of midterm arrangements, some of which are programs under the Bretton Woods institutions. In fact, we had hoped that representatives of Bretton Woods would also come and share with us. I'm not sure whether they're still coming, but I just wanted to make your task more focused so that you don't deal with some of the long-range issues we may raise from this end. Actually, the thing about national dialogue in this committee is a part of national healing. So you hear some of us having those exchanges, okay? Because like Kimani wants to heal, he wants this thing about SGR seems to be worrying him a lot. And others maybe have, some of us have deeper issues to worry about. But I think we'll spare you for now, and please give us, because one thing the control of the budget did was she saw a relationship between the high cost of living and capital flight. That's an issue. I don't know other friends. Was in Njoroge from budget, Nyaga from the budget, parliamentary budget committee. So that we see these things and be able to pronounce ourselves on the way forward as a committee, so that we can help ourselves, help our people. The lower, one thing has also come out clear, Kimani, if you narrow, you kind of enhance the tax base, it becomes a bit more attractive, all right? So that people can pay taxes on a more voluntary basis. I just wanted to ask that you give us some precise presentation out of what you've been saying.
In short, Your Excellency, what you are advising them is that it's not everything that you may be able to answer in this forum. If there is what you can enrich with a more detailed presentation, please feel free, because as His Excellency says, what we want to do is to benefit from what Eugene said, a good idea could bring forth an even better idea. So if you have better ideas that you can help us with, we really want to benefit from those. But maybe you can take 1 minute or 2 minutes each to sum up some of those issues that we had raised.
Yes, and just to appreciate what the Controller of Budget did. She was very specific. When you're talking about lowering cost of living, you know what the mwananchi is feeling there. You know, basic things, sugar, they can't have cooking oil. Come in your response, I need to be a bit specific also. Say, like on our side, we are proposing the issue of, the doubling of the VAT from 8 to 16. We would like it to come back to 8. This housing thing, if there are alternatives, would like that dropped. So would like some, and you don't have to answer everything now. Yeah. You can give the details in terms of proposals in your further written submissions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Just to sum up again, we are here because of the picketing that was done. What have you to say about those who got, the ones who actually, what the losses they suffered during the picketing? Is that not also not affecting us?
I think it's related to what I was asking Nyaga, whether the culture of political violence in a way causes the capital flight that we see and discourages foreign direct investments.
Chair, just as my closing remark, in fact, President Samia Suluhu actually said it by herself, that the violence in Kenya has gotten investors to invest in Tanzania. She said it, it's on record.
Don't put words in her mouth. She said, nchi jirani. It's only that that nchi jirani, of course, that is always avoiding mentioning countries.
You must ask the question, why the violence?
Yeah.
You must always go to the root cause of these things. Unless you kind of...
Your Excellency, we can never justify violence.
No.
There can only be reason as to why
we
people get
buried
into
Kenyans.
violence, but we should not be seen to justify
We buried
violence.
Kenyans simply because they wanted food on the table. That's very important.
Okay, 2 minutes each, please. Margaret. Sorry, I keep confusing your name, Mary and Margaret.
I think it's Margaret.
Margaret Nyakanga.
It's Margaret. And you forgot salt. Do you know the price of salt has gone up or short? I was in a village called Ichungwa in Kakamega, and the ladies told me, salt, at Omena, everything has gone up.
Omena that we just get from the lake. That tells you that the global recession is real, because if even the cost of omena or even salt that is mined from the water, but you of course know getting salt from water is a manufacturing process. When the cost of electricity goes up, the cost of labor goes up, everything is bound to go up, and that's why we really endeavor to deal with this issue in a very rational and objective way, so that we get your expert opinions.
Imani, on a lighter note, not everything has gone up. Some of our values are important. If you want to marry a Kamba girl, we just bring nine cattle. 9 heads of cattle. So we may have to revert to 96 goats. Don't worry.
I wish I was not married. I wish I was not married, Your Excellency.
Chair, we are not very well on time.
Okay, Margaret.
Chairs, I think the area I want to talk about just a little in the 2 minutes, are we able to establish like how much foreign direct investment has been raised in the last 1 year? This is not possible. Why? Because you cannot do marketing and already get the sales. This is not, the cost and effect is not direct. But having said that, the marketing must be matched by, or rather with the back office services. So what do I mean? If we go out there looking for foreign direct investments, but the investors come and find that our environment is hostile, then we will not have matched the cost that we spend to market with the investments that we can get. So we need to pull up our socks somewhere in the back office. Then there is the issue of state capture in terms of some of the projects. And I just wanted to say that the Auditor General is already on the issue of the SGR. Now, I may not know the extent to which the report has been prepared and what it will bring out, but we all know our systems and they are quite lengthy. So I guess what I could say, I wish the Auditor General was here themselves. They would have told us how far they have gone. I think from where I sit, and given that we have been given more time to go and look at these issues and beef up the presentations, I would like to just be very grateful for this opportunity that the committee gave us to give our contributions.
Thank you, Margaret. I hope you do not suffer the same fate under this regime as you did under the last regime.
I have you there.
Yes, you can count on us.
She will not suffer.
You can count on us. Kwame?
Okay. For us, I think the major driver for cost of the distress that households feel about cost of living is the price of food. It's also clear that the income support that government gives through cash transfers is insufficient, both in terms of the number of people covered and the amount. So even without necessarily changing the amount, basically expanding it to say 1-2 million other households is unaffordable. 8 million shillings for the top, in the bottom 25%, that's doable. It's not too much money. It would have substantial effects, basically even cohesion. So that's one. We would re-emphasize that. We still think that the housing levy is a bad idea. A superior idea would be actually to use the same resources that have been generated to expand schools throughout the country. Why? Because the demand for schools is just going to grow up, but also schools construction create local jobs. As opposed to constructing condominiums in Nairobi. They'll be fancy apartments, certainly, whatever they would be, but that doesn't create, most of it tends to be capital intensive. I think the third question is, nobody mentions it, the word privatization is considered a bad word. The government of Kenya has substantial assets of very high value. And when you have a problem with making payments, if you can't pay pensioners and you can't feed kids, when you can't construct schools, you let go of assets. And some of those assets could be in a transparent way, governed by a law that Parliament will pass, and it would actually provide some substantial relief. It's not necessarily a solution, but it could provide substantial relief in the short, in the short run. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kome, and PBO. I just give them, they are due 2 minutes, but maybe Kome also to inform you that the housing programs are coming also with an element, and maybe just to agree with His Excellency, there's a lot of talk on the housing that information, and maybe the ministry should do more to inform Kenyans. Because, for instance, many of the housing projects are coming as mixed-use units with hospitals, incorporated with them, and including schools. And therefore, it may cater for some of the things you're talking about. Nyaga?
Thank you so much, Chair.
You don't build a settlement, for instance, replace the entire of Kibra, for instance, where you're housing, say, 1 million people, do multi-dwelling units that will accommodate 4 or 5 million people, and you don't provide social amenities like schools, hospitals, common user facilities like playgrounds for them, and all those are there. Nyaga?
Thanks so much, Chair. FDA is affected by the climate of doing business in the country. And some of the issues that drive the climate of doing business include 1, political stability, 2, education, infrastructure, good infrastructure, regulations, taxation, including property rights. So you can look at it in a wider format. Number 2.
What was the Foreign Protection? Remember Foreign Investment Protection Act?
Yeah. On the other issue, Chair, you raised the issue about the big ticket investments like SGR. I would imagine if we design them well, you can get the dollars in here, so that those investments are not done here, but the money is transacted outside. So I think that could be a good idea. You can extend the SGR or do other things, including climate financing projects, which is actually a new opportunity for FBI.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Mr. Nyaga, Masinde, Kwame, and the Institute of Economic Affairs and the Control of Budget. We, again, in conclusion, just have to say, should there be anything of value that you find of value to this committee and to the country, please feel free to share with us, either in writing. Also feel free to join us tomorrow as we engage, especially on the housing issue. I would really want to get an engagement between Kwame Owino and the Institute of Economic Affairs and the Ministry of Housing on particular proposals on housing and what they have, and probably could also benefit from also getting information, and Kenyans getting more information on the housing agenda as envisioned by them tomorrow. We thank you for your time, and sorry we kept you quiet for almost the whole day. It's now 4:45 p.m., but you will also bear with us, because this is one amongst the issues, as His Excellency said, that are very key to this committee and indeed to the country, because the cost of living and the global recession are indeed matters of concern, not just to Kenyans, but to many people around the world. And homemade solutions we can come up with your help, would be of great benefit, not just to this committee, but to Kenyans at large. Thank you. God bless you. So, yeah, members, tomorrow, 10 a.m. Senate is sitting. Then we will also have to sit on Monday. Because the National Treasury and the So, Secretariat, we have agreed we meet tomorrow at 9 a.m. with the Housing Department, and then Monday morning with the National Treasury and the Ministry of Energy. Then maybe on Monday we can agree on which other day to meet in the course of that week to look at the instruments as we had agreed, and now review the issues that we will have.